Business Talk, and I'm Norman Liss. This program is dedicated to helping people do business better. There's a certain uniqueness about today's program, probably because my guest today, one of my guests today is Edward M. Liss of Market Facts. Now, I say the name Liss with the understanding that he's absolutely no relation of mine, although I think he's quite a competent person, and we'll learn about it. My second guest is Nancy Gold of the Gold Standard, and she's a marketing communications specialist. And what we're going to be talking about today is providing information. And so let's get into that whole subject of providing information. Can you sum up in a few words what are the key elements in properly providing information?
Well, I guess I'll start off. I think for one, simplicity, keeping it very simple, being sure you know what it is you want to communicate before you start communicating. Also, keeping it clear, not being too complicated. It goes back to really knowing what you want to say so that you hone your message very carefully.
It takes a lot of work, is what you're saying, to do all of these things? Is it always, we're talking about providing information in many circumstances, when people make an inquiry to you, or when you're reaching out to someone, prospecting. Is clarity the key? Is preparing the information? What about different audiences?
I think it's critical to figure out really who you want to communicate, not just what you want to communicate, but who you want to communicate to. And not trying to send a message to the entire universe, but to really hone down your audience so that you really know who it is that you want to receive that message. Isn't
it true that there is no one audience out there? There are many different audiences, so people and businesses and recipients are different, and they have to have things that are different, because not everybody can get that Dear Everybody letter, which we see so much of today.
Yeah, that's true. And you really, in an ideal world, the person you communicate with is going to be a person who's likely to be interested in what it is you're talking about.
Either by you determining that in advance, or by the person having made an inquiry. Of course, we're in a world today that's different. Of course, that's the reason that Ed is here to talk today, because Market Facts is a company that, by implication of its name itself, indicates that the world of facts has changed things completely. Market Facts is a facts-on-demand company, isn't it?
That's correct.
And what define facts-on-demand? What does it mean, and how does it work?
Well, facts-on-demand is information that's stored in a database which is digitized. And we store documents as opposed to a relational database which stores elements. For example...
You're getting a little technical for me. You're talking about the relational database. How does it work, and how does it work for the people who are supplying the information?
Well, some of my clients are magazines. For example, Times Mirror, which publishes Golf Magazine.
Right.
And they have resorts that advertise in the magazine, which are then given Market Facts extensions and a toll-free number, so that readers, subscribers can make a phone call, which is a free call from any touch-tone phone, and enter what's called an extension number, a 3 or 4 I-digit code that quantifies and qualifies exactly the resort they're looking for.
So, in other words, if someone picks up the magazine and they see this advertiser, and there's a number with an extension...
It's a directory with all the resorts in a single directory with a single toll-free number at the top.
And then the person dials that toll-free number and proper the extension. What happens? What happens at Market Facts to make this response happen?
The computer has a recorded voice. It's actually a natural voice of my partner, Tom Cadela, that says, "Welcome to the Instant Facts Information Line." It asks you for the extension number that you're interested in. It asks you for multiples if you want to put more than one in. It then asks you to put in your area code and fax number on your touch-tone phone. It instantly repeats it back to you. It asks you to properly route your request. Please enter your phone number, and you hang up, and within 20 seconds, it'll be sent anywhere instantly on demand.
And this is all done automatically?
All automated 24 hours a day. That's
now, this response, one of the things that we didn't discuss in the keywords is promptness. So many times we make an inquiry, and if you get someone, they'll say, well, we'll have that in the mail to you within 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
That's right.
And by that time...
you forgot you ever wanted it.
Exactly right,
Yeah.
Nancy. It's exactly right. I have sometimes received material, and I don't remember that I asked for it because it's been such a long time ago. But fax has made this possible. Are we in that era? Are we in the era of the fax, or is it the emerging era?
Well, I think we're in the era of interactivity, and what that does, it allows you to target your markets. We opened up about information, the ease of use, the ease of access. But one of the things that interactive communications, of which Fax on Demand is interactive, allows you to do is to send information to people when they want it. And it allows you to focus your level of interest specifically into what they're asking for. So if you had a directory of 50 different elements, it could be resorts, it could be anything at all, you're not going to be putting in 50 extensions like you circle reader response cards in a magazine. So what it does, it kind of forces a discipline that says, please tell me what you're really interested in. And most people will put down what they're interested in, as opposed to just anything that they happen to like. And that's target marketing.
Now, that's done with magazines. What other applications are there?
Well, there are applications in publishing or in real estate, for example. We have clients in real estate, one of which is the National Association of Realtors, and they send out all year long seminar information about seminars and conferences, legal issues that their constituents and members are interested in keeping abreast on.
How did they do this before they had Market Fax to do this for them?
They did it on the phone. They did it with manual faxing, which just obviously with the personnel and staff cost was just cost prohibitive. And they did it through direct mail and all the traditional marketing and advertising methods that you and I know of.
Of course, all of this presumes that the person who's making the inquiry has a fax machine.
You don't need to have a fax machine. You just need to have access to a fax number. Our experience is if people want the information, they physically don't have to own a fax machine. You can go into a Staples or an Office Fax and pay per page to get what you're looking for because the call is free from any phone. So our experience is if people want the information, they don't need to have a fax machine that they own. They can have access to a fax number, and we'll send it any place.
It can be sent to any place. You just have to designate the number.
That's correct.
To which it's,
That's correct.
And they know it's coming to you because you put the name on when you make the call. Is that how it works?
If they have what's called a PIN number, like if Norman Liss were in my database and his fax machine was associated with Norman Liss, it would come out with a cover page that says, please give this to Norman Liss.
I see. Okay.
That's how it works.
That's the way it works.
Right.
See, the fact that it's prompt, I think, is a key factor. Generally, in when we're discussing the subject of providing information, don't people make the mistake too often of sending the wrong information? Or
Oh, sure. Because very often it's a matter of economy. They have a business will have a brochure that is really very, very general about their business, and they'll send that out broadly to people who really want more targeted information than that. It might not be applicable in the same way that it's described to every group.
So how do you target? How do you determine what the person wants? I know one of the ways is through Fax on Demand, but how does if an inquiry comes in, or you've solicited someone and you want to send them some information? How do you know specifically what to send them? And is there such a thing as sending too much?
There's always a thing as sending too much. I think we're all drowning in information, and I think it's the simple, short and simple piece of information that gets through to somebody that they can digest easily and understand quickly and deal with quickly that is going to really get through the clutter.
There's also another factor in there, and that is why send something expensive to somebody who may not be interested beyond that first communication?
I think it really depends on what you're selling, Norman. If I'm selling you a Mercedes-Benz, you can bet I'm going to send you something expensive because I already have determined that you are in an income level that can purchase a Mercedes-Benz. And I've done that looking at what other kinds of products and services you buy and where you live and all those demographic pieces of information that develop a profile of you. I determined that you can afford a Mercedes, and if you can afford a Mercedes, I'm not going to send you a Xeroxed flyer.
But you pre-qualified that.
I pre-qualify you.
Yes,
absolutely.
By the demographics.
Right. I'm going to send you a very expensive brochure. You can count on it.
On the other hand, if you're doing something in a wider range, if you're advertising in a magazine, as we were just discussing, you don't know who's qualified. So if someone is responding to a resort, you're not going to send a thick, full-color brochure, but you do want to pre-qualify that person.
Well, one of the things that Facts on Demand does very well, it allows pre-qualification. The caller who's making the query is actually pre-qualifying himself. As an example, we have mail order clients. We don't send out the entire catalog on Facts on Demand. We send out a little information about the contents of the catalog, maybe a little directory, gives them a little teaser, and it says, if you'd like to get this complete catalog, fill out this name, address, fax phone number, and fax or mail to, bang. So they're basically saying that, yes, I'd like to get the full catalog. So instead of sending out that expensive Mercedes-Benz catalog to everybody, the caller is now saying, please send me this catalog. And then everyone's going to say that. So the ones you're sending the catalog to that have requested it are really highly qualified leads that you really want to follow up with.
Ed, do you have a secondary procedure too? If someone, for example, qualifies themselves, can they then call again the 800 number and hit the extension and move on to the next step?
Sure, absolutely. They do that automatically because the response information actually navigates them through other things automatically.
Automatically.
Correct.
So it may bring them to another step.
One extension may yield a directory, which will have a series of elements. Let's say resorts, or let's say catalogs with different types of products or services in it. And then the caller will peruse the information he just got from the fax and say, I want to call back and get this, this, and this. So now he's pre-qualified his interest as calling back and saying, I'm specifically interested in this, this, and this. So he's telling you precisely what he's interested in.
How about when you're reaching out to someone, if you're doing a mailing, for example, the subject of using a label as opposed to typewritten or handwritten, is that something that you have some feelings on, Nancy?
Yeah, I think you have to be very careful about that. If you're addressing the CEO of a major corporation, you really want to reach that guy. Don't do it in a language he doesn't understand or his secretary doesn't understand, which is a handwritten note. You have to be very sensitive to the recipient of the information. That envelope needs to be individually addressed, typewritten, looking like $1 million in order to land on his desk. But if you want to catch the attention, for instance, of the press, sometimes a handwritten envelope that is not a label, which is what they're most used to, but you want to attract their attention to something, make it stand out from the crowd, to them, and in that instance, you're going to handwrite that address on the envelope because it's going to look personal and it's going to look like just from me to you, and that'll get through.
How about inside the envelope? How about the question of notes accompanying the material, handwritten notes accompanying the material, personalized notes accompanying?
I use them all the time. Partly because I don't want to take the time to stop and type something when I'm in the midst of a busy day, but also I know that if I put a handwritten note on it on my stationery, I have a little note card that says the gold standard, and then I just jot a little note, hey, Norman thought you'd like to know about this. They're going to notice it.
As opposed to sending it without anything?
Oh, it's much more effective, especially in press relations, where it's true, I suppose, in many other fields too, but the press is inundated with material. I mean, editors will tell you about a stack of releases that they have to go through every day. And if all of them, each one looks like the next one, they're going to maybe pass over it, maybe toss it in the wastepaper basket, but if one has a handwritten note, they'll pick it up.
How about the amount of the postage? Now, if you mail something, a bulk mail, as opposed to something that has just a printed rather than a stamp. Mm-hmm. And, of course, with the increase in postage stamps, what you send out by mail is more expensive, which certainly is going to apply to a great extent to what you do, and the cost of postage is so high. Mm-hmm. Someone was telling me that Christmas cards this year are down, and the mailing of Christmas cards, and next year will be the further down at Christmas because it costs so much.
32 cents each next year?
32 cents, and also the fact that your Christmas cards cost so much more now, so everybody you mail to may cost you $1 or more just for the mailing itself, and it's a very expensive proposition. But how do you feel about looking at an envelope? I know we're in the subject of so-called junk mail, a term that I object to, by the way. If it were junk, the mailer would never send it. The sophisticated mailer would never send it. It's more junk to the person who's paying for it than the person who's receiving it. So I don't think that the term is proper. But if something does come in and it's a lower cost stamp, or if it's a printed, for example, if it's a printed postage note, do people reject them, or do they treat them more casually, or throw them out without opening them?
Possibly. I think people do that. I think it all has to do with image, and the image that you are trying to portray because you're trying to reach that particular audience. I know when I started my own business, one of the first things I did was to go out and rent a little stamp machine at Pitney Bowes, because I wanted, even though I'm operating my business out of my home, I wanted to project the image of a business establishment, and I didn't want to be putting stamps on envelopes and looking like I was running a home-operated business. I wanted to be a cut above that. So that's an image question.
I want to get to the subject of getting information to people when they don't inquire first. But first, I do want to remind our audience that the subject that we're talking about today is providing information, and then my guests are Ed Liss of Market Facts and Nancy Gold of the Gold Standard. Now, so let's get into this subject of getting material out to people in advance. Now, there are certain restrictions as far as fax is concerned. Is there some law about not being able to fax material to people?
It's a gray area. There is a law in the books in Washington, and I don't think it's enforceable. And I know there's laws in states, like the state of Connecticut, if you send unsolicited, i.e. junk fax, it could be a misdemeanor if it's reported. The way we define it is if somebody calls Market Facts or any fax retrieval service, as an example, and requests information, and that information is captured by the computer database because it's automatically captured, the fax, the phone number, and other information about the caller, and we turn around and do a broadcast to someone that's already called and expressed a predetermined level of interest, then by definition, quote unquote, a relationship's been established, a working relationship, albeit as fine or as small as it may seem. As a rule, we do not send out unsolicited junk fax. So you, as a client, came to me and said, I want to send out a fax list. I bought a list from some company. I would not take that business. Okay, I just won't. But to answer your question, there is a law in the books in Washington, but I don't think it's enforced, and it's kind of a gray area. It's like the Wild West out there right now, quite frankly. It really is.
Really? Well, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that there's a lot of that going on? Is there a lot of faxes coming in unsolicited?
I'm not aware of it particularly. There is a lot that I know that Ed does and other companies do of broadcast fax, but that is to a list that has been established. As
broadcast meaning sending out
information to a list of fax numbers.
Yeah, that goes out instantly to X number of fax machines. But that's what, in Ed's case, I know he's very careful about sending it just to people that he has a relationship with.
How do you feel, Nancy, about sending out information to people? Do you call first? Now, we're not talking about media, which I know you work in a great deal. Do you send material and follow it up? Do you call first and say it's coming? What's the best procedure?
You know, I feel as though in the course of a day I'm operating at about 75 miles an hour, and in the course of that day I'm going to do it 10 different ways to Sunday based on who it is I'm communicating with again, and what the relationship is between me.
Are there any rules?
I don't know that there are any clear-cut rules. Certainly follow-up is follow-up is follow-up, and if you're not following up, you're really wasting your time, basically. And that's true with a sales call as it is with something that you're mailing. Ordinarily, I like to be in touch with a person first, establish a relationship, and let them know to expect something from me, whether I do that by making an appointment and going to see them and then sending them something, or making a phone call and then sending them something, and then calling to say, did you get my material? Could we talk?
I interviewed someone on this program who said, send me the material, make sure it's one page, and if you plan to follow me up, put a note on it and indicate that you will be following me up, and I will keep it on a pile so that I know you're following up, and I will be ready to respond. Maybe not favorably, but I'll be ready to respond to you. Now, that seems to me to be a very effective method of keeping it short. And yet, in the direct marketing field, we know that the long, multi-page letter works. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. Back to the subject of junk mail. It wouldn't be done over and over and over again if it didn't work. And I don't think that the sophisticated people who are doing that...
It works by volume. And it's a very low percentage in any huge mailing that
You
they
don't
expect
believe
to
in
get a
it.
response to.
You don't believe in it.
I can't say I don't believe in it. I've used it at times, but I really think it's, I guess, more interesting to try to really target closely your market and also to develop a kind of customer loyalty, some bonding between you and a target audience of some kind.
Your experience, Ed, with the clients that you're working with on Market Facts, do you find that people are sending out a lot of information so that in response to an inquiry, I know you have a wide range of people that you work with, companies that you work with, are the responses that are going out, are they multi-page?
No, actually, in this case, less is more. The less you send, the better off you're going to be to communicate with your one-on-one audience. Even in direct mail or direct response, we find that letters and envelopes and all the costs associated with it doesn't work. But we advise our clients to send out postcards. You got 6 seconds to capture their attention. As an example, you have a catchy phrase on the postcard, and it says, if you'd like to find out more, call, free call. It goes to Market Facts, and information is generated to pique your interest at the time that your interest is piqued. There's a lot of psychology going on here.
So what you're saying is that they generate leads by using mail in a simple form to generate the inquiry.
Correct.
Which is like qualifying the inquiry by mail and then responding by fax on demand.
Right, but the mail is a postcard as opposed to an envelope and a letter that's stuffed. It may not even get opened or read in a timely fashion.
And how about the response that they get? Is that multi-page?
Usually we recommend no more than 1 to 3 pages. If you're sending out seminar information, of course you want to send as much as possible, the courses, the speakers, the sign-up registration. But in terms of direct general information, 1 to 3 pages is usually what we consider good fax etiquette.
How about graphics? Is graphics used a lot?
Yes, we use graphics, we use images, which are digitized, and they come out crystal clear as opposed to muddy fax images.
And people generally use something rather than straight type?
Yes, absolutely. You can use graphics, you can use images, you can use combinations, absolutely.
Is there a cost factor that says only people with X amount of expected inquiries should use this? How does a small company determine whether they should be using fax on demand?
Well, I think personal marketing is like a buzzword of the 90s. Everybody has to do personal marketing, whether you're working out of a home.
Define that term for me.
Personal marketing is, as Nancy Gold has a business in public relations and marketing, and she wants to get her services and credentials out to her audience. Okay, so what we suggest, again, using fax on demand in this case, is that you integrate the toll-free number even on the back of her business card. Her business card is dynamic. When she hands it out, it triggers action because someone can make that call when they're ready to make the call and get the information about her credentials.
But is it cost-effective for a small business to be using a fax-on-demand service?
Yes, because it gives a one-on-one approach to a caller, again, a one-on-one presentation to someone who's making the request voluntarily, which can be followed up as a lead by the client, by my client. Absolutely, it's very effective.
One of the things I think is most interesting about the information age that we live in and the technology that's available to us is that it's available to everybody. It's like a level playing field. The big guys have as much access to the internet as the little guy does, and the big guys have as much ability and availability of something like fax on demand. The little guy has the same. Ed's got clients who own delis who are using fax on demand. Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, they send out every day. They change the menu, and they have a target fax list of maybe 60 or 80 fax numbers. And instead of standing there manually faxing one after the other or dedicating a PC one line at a time, they do a remote insert into Market Fax, which takes about 60 seconds. It sends back a verification of what they just put in to let them know it got in, and then it instantly triggers a broadcast to their database list. So that whole process takes 60 seconds.
So if I wanted to, if you, being in the public relations business, want to get out a press release to 15 publications, you do it that way.
Sure.
Simultaneously.
We create a fax broadcast list at Market Fax, and I just fax the release down to Irvington, where Ed is based, and it goes out in 60 seconds to my entire press list.
And what did you do before that?
I stuck them in the mail. I faxed them myself, which is really tedious manual fax. It doesn't go through, and you're standing there, and it takes a lot of staff time to do that kind of thing.
Now, the people at the other end, of course, today fax is acceptable, and people rely on it really more than resent it because you're coming right in there. Are they aware that it's coming in by a fax company as opposed to?
No.
It's just a fax that's
transparent to the user.
Came in.
Looks like any other fax.
I'm really intrigued by the. I think you triggered this by mentioning the deli and mentioning a public relations firm. But what are the other applications?
They're endless. I mean,
what are the other uses that you have?
I want to tell you about one because it's my favorite and all the clients I've ever known at MarketFax. It's called Construction Workforce, Inc., and it's a guy out in Oregon that has job listing services for blue-collar workers.
industrial contractor.
Yeah, like plumbers and welders and oil rig guys and all that stuff. They can buy into MarketFax now. He's got it rigged up through Ed Service so that a guy can be finishing a job in Tulsa, okay, and he's at the drugstore in Tulsa. He calls MarketFax, and MarketFax faxes him to the stationery store next door a list of all the jobs available this week, right, around the country in his specialty. And he says, oh, gee, they need welders down in Bayonne or wherever, And he can call the guy, the contact that's listed, and have himself a new job and be off and running. This is, Norman, blue-collar meeting high-tech.
It's incredible.
Isn't that great?
I think you've opened our eyes today wonderfully to a new world. We talked about providing information, but we're providing information in the modern age, and I thank you both for being here today. Today we've been talking about something new, certainly as far as I'm concerned, and that's Fax on Demand, and my guests have been Edward Liss of MarketFax and Nancy Gold of the Gold Standard. The story is always communicate and do it properly. This is Business Talk, and I'm Norman Liss, and until next time at this time, good luck.